I'm glad you're here with me today. So we'll get started. First of all, have you ever noticed the conversations you have with yourself? This isn't the ones that you have with your family and your friends, but the quiet conversations that happen in your own mind. That inner voice, perhaps. Maybe you've caught yourself thinking, I'll never get over this. I'm not strong enough. Nothing ever goes right for me. Or perhaps you've said, what's next? Why is life so hard? We often don't realize it, but the stories that we repeatedly tell ourselves shape how we see the world. It's how we respond to challenges and how we heal. If we haven't met before, my name is Terri Sterk. I create transformational spaces where women wellness seekers step into their power, turning their pain into purpose and their survival into thriving. Today, I want to encourage you. I want to tell you, I want to encourage you to tell yourself a better story. Why do I care so much about that? Well, for years, I believed a story about myself that kept me trapped in fear, anxiety, and survival mode. Today, I want to share how changing that story became one of the most important steps in my healing journey. For much of my life, I allowed difficult circumstances to become the story of who I was. I allowed other people to dictate that story. I experienced two breast cancer diagnoses. I lost my mother unexpectedly. I lost my father a few years later. I experienced family conflict with the loss of my parents, and that left deep emotional wounds. I lost a close friend to metastatic breast cancer, which left me feeling survival guilt. There were seasons when it felt like one hardship followed another. If you've experienced trauma, grief, illness, or disappointment, you know how easy it is to let that pain become your identity. Without even realizing it, our thoughts begin saying things like, life is always hard. I'm never going to feel normal again. I'm too broken. I'll never be happy again. This is just my life now. Those thoughts don't appear overnight. They develop little by little until they become the story that we believe about ourselves. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is this: your circumstances are real, pain is real, loss is real, fear is an emotion, but it's certainly real. But the story you tell yourself about those experiences either keeps you stuck or it can help you move forward. There's an important difference. Ignoring pain isn't healing. Pretending everything is okay isn't healing. Healing comes when we acknowledge the truth of what happened while refusing to let it define the rest of our lives. Well, we can see the truth and believe the truth without letting it define our lives. The brain is fascinating. It will do what we tell it to do. What do I mean by that? Well, it naturally looks for evidence to support what we already believe. So if I believe nothing ever works out for me, my brain will notice every disappointment. If I believe I always fail, then I overlook every time I succeed. It's almost as if our mind wears a pair of glasses. Whatever lens we choose to determine to use that day, that's why mindset matters so much. Well, the Apostle Paul understood this long before any neuroscience explained it. In Romans 12:2, he wrote, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Notice that transformation begins in the mind. We cannot ignore reality, but we can renew our thinking. Renewing your mind doesn't happen all at once. It happens one thought at a time, one choice at a time, one day at a time. That's exactly how healing works. Healing rarely happens in giant leaps. It happens in layers. Before my healing journey began, I couldn't understand the anguish that filled my heart. It was like a cavernous valley, full of darkness, until I found a breakthrough to change my mindset. I remember that day when the breakthrough happened. I felt peace and light and moved forward to heal and thrive. Looking back over my healing journey, I can see that every lesson taught me something. Cancer taught me resilience. Grief taught me compassion for others and for myself. Loss taught me gratitude for all the blessings in my life. Even though most difficult chapters became part of my larger story. So, how do we begin telling ourselves a better story? The first step is becoming aware of your inner dialogue. Pay attention to the words you repeat every day. Sometimes you don't even realize you're saying it. Would you say those words to someone you love? Probably not. Yet many of us speak to ourselves more harshly than anyone else ever could. Awareness is the first step toward change. The second step is asking yourself, is this thought actually true? Sometimes the answer is yes, but many times it's based on fear or shame or disappointment or something someone said years ago that we've carried ever since. Not every thought deserves your belief. So think about that carefully. Is this thought actually true? The third step is replacing the old story with one rooted in truth. So instead of I'm broken, tell yourself I'm healing. I'm a failure. Say I'm learning. I'm learning to do better. Instead of nothing will ever change, choose every small step moves me one step forward. Instead of my past defines me, remind yourself my past prepared me, but it does not determine my future. The goal isn't pretending that life is perfect. The goal is choosing thoughts that lead toward hope instead of toward despair. Your story isn't just a diary about all you've been through. It's something that can bring meaning and strength and connection to others and become a pathway to reclaim your life with healing and purpose. It can help you feel empowered and confident in your ability to influence your healing journey. I'd like to give you a simple exercise this week, one to help you create your own story. Take out a journal or a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left side of the page, write the story I've been telling myself. What would you write in that column? What are your beliefs? I'm too old. I'll never heal. No one will ever hire me. I'll always struggle. I'm not enough. What is your story? What would you write on the left side of that page? On the right side, write a better story. It might say, I'm growing. I'm taking one step at a time. I'm learning. I've overcome difficult things before. I can overcome difficult things. I can do difficult things. I'm becoming stronger every day. My story isn't over yet. Those are ideas of things you could write on that side of the page. Write a better story. Things you can believe to take you forward. Read that news story every morning this week. Write the words that you've written and recite them out loud. Do it every day or even multiple times a day. You may not believe it immediately, and that's okay. But saying them over and over will train your brain to think differently. Remember, the old story wasn't built in a day, and your new one won't be either. But with time and with practice, you can change the way your mind thinks. I know because I did it. I want to leave you with one final thought. Every great story has difficult chapters, but no one judges a book by reading only one chapter. Your life has many chapters. You don't judge your entire life by the way one chapter went. Maybe today you're living through a hard chapter. That doesn't mean it's the end of your story. There were many chapters before that that were great, that were positive. There are still pages waiting to be written. There is still hope. There is still purpose, and there is still healing ahead. As we close today, I want to leave you with one question. What story have you been telling yourself? And is it time to let that go? Maybe today is the day you begin writing a new chapter, one built on hope and truth and faith. Because of the story you repeat to yourself shapes the way you heal. Choose a story that leads you toward thriving, not just surviving. If today's message encouraged you, and I sure hope it did, I'd love to hear from you. Share one word in the comments that describes the story you're choosing to live. Perhaps it's hope, courage, peace, renewal, or another word, comfort, joy. If you know someone who needs this encouragement, please share this video with them. I appreciate your time today and I thank you for listening. Until next time, I'm cheering you on.